about it. All week it's been the issue. But behind the pulp and the sensationalism and the hyperbole, behind the misunderstanding, the people most affected have been making their silent statements.
The high flies and all Whitmer!
And one man who's fought his share of battles, both on and off the field, has rediscovered his greatness.
Oh, what a player he is. Genius at times.
His coach, reeling at the loss of another champion, joins us tonight, sure to be comforted to some degree by the twinkle he sees in the eye of Michael Long. Just as St Kilda's eyes will be smiling after a week of soul-searching. For Tim Watson, relief may have been his greatest emotion as the Saints rolled over Melbourne. How good were the Saints? Demon David Schwarz joins us to give us an opponent's perspective. And on a night where we celebrate comebacks, fightbacks and men of honour, we'll share in a special occasion for one of our own. Steven Silvagni today played his 250th game for Carlton. It was a day he's unlikely to forget. We'll join him, his family and friends on tonight's Football Feedback.
Hello and welcome to Football Feedback. Great pictures there of Steven Silvagni and his son Jack. We think we've got a great show for you. Kevin Sheedy's coming in. Melbourne forward David Schwarz will join us, and we'll be seeing Steve Silvagni down at the Crown Casino live very soon. It was just a terrific round of football once more. I believe I saw one of the best games of football that I've ever seen, and that was the Bulldogs-Cats game at Optus Oval. I know you were there, Stan. Wasn't it a ripper?
Well, Robbie, it was. There's no doubt about that. And I think that probably in the context of the week where there's been so many highlights on and off the field, to go along and just see that classic encounter, where really at the end of the day, I think it's difficult. I know from an impartial point of view, you've come away saying that the game's a winner. I know that probably Terry Wallace didn't feel that way, but it was just one sensational game. It was a bottler, wasn't it? It was one for the archives, there's no doubt about that.
Well, it was. It was a 44-goal shootout, and more about that a little bit later on, but I'd also like to welcome Rowan Connolly. Rowan, age rider, sparring partner with all of the coaches, and you've been at it again.
Started early this year, hasn't it? Oh, it's a minor tiff with Tim Watson on, when was it? Sunday night, last night. But, yeah, I suspect that probably had more to do with one of my colleagues, one of our colleagues in fact, than myself, but it's all sorted out.
You've sorted it out?
Oh, we've all sorted it out.
And what about Patrick? Has he sorted it out?
Yeah, I'm not sure how you define sorting it out, but I know they have talked about the incident again today. I haven't actually. I'm looking forward to hearing about that because I haven't heard it.
OK, well, let's have a look at the round two winners, and you'll see that Essendon, of course, by 35 points on Thursday night. Richmond by 12 over Sydney, Geelong by 21 in that shootout game, West Coast by 10 over Brisbane over at Subiaco, Adelaide by 4 against the Hawks, Port Adelaide by 13 against Freo, St Kilda by 46, big winners against the Demons, and Carlton, of course, today against Collingwood at the MCG with a crowd of 70,000 plus, so footy's alive and well.
And if we have a look at the ladder, I know we're only 2 rounds in the season, but just have a look at that, Rowan. Essendon, I've gone for them. They're up the top, and your boys down near the bottom. I mean, significant really, isn't it? I mean, the Kangaroos in Sydney, I think nobody expected them to be 0-2 at this stage.
No, I guess if you're ever going to get sort of funny scenarios in the ladder, it's in the early rounds, isn't it? But I'm not prepared to write off my premiership tip after round 2, Steve.
Fair enough, Cal.
And let's have a look at the tribunal. Well, at this stage, only one player, and that's Peter Mann of Fremantle for striking Braden Lyle, and that was a pretty fiery game over there, no doubt about that. Well, we've got the good fortune to be able to go to Crown Casino. Carlton Football Club has let us inside their function. It's a private function for the players and the supporters for Steve, and we're looking forward to joining Steve down there at Crown. And I think with Steve is your captain and good friend, Craig Bradley.
Yes, Craig here with us, Rob. So having a good night down here.
Well, first off, congratulations to the team. It was a wonderful win, and to you, Steve, 250 games. I think that makes you 9th on the all-time list at Carlton. And to you, Craig, congratulations. Rowan Connolly gave you 3 votes. I must admit I only gave you 2, but a very, very good performance.
Yeah, Rob, it was a great game. I suppose it was a bit scrappy up until half-time, but we managed to peg them back about 5 minutes 5 minutes to go with the second quarter. But after half-time, we managed to man up and get them to play in our game, so it was quite good.
And tell us about young Jack. Did he enjoy his first lap on the MCG?
He did. It didn't faze him too much at all, but got a bit of a crowd here in the background, but no, he enjoyed himself. Came onto the ground after the game and came into the rooms and had a real ball. So it was actually a special moment for us. So really enjoyed it.
Craig, the importance obviously of today's game, I mean against the arch enemy in Collingwood, there's no doubt about that, but also from your perspective, the captain, I mean wanting to be a special day for Steven, I mean how much pressure does that place on you and the boys? I mean I know you've got to focus on the game, but you really do want to do it for Steven.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of pressure going into the game because it was a game we had to win today, and just to not to lose two in a row. But we've had a few players play their 100th games this year and over the years, and we've lost those games. So it was nice to finally win one and win one for Sauce on his 250.
Craig, we're looking at the Carlton players doing a warm-up in the rooms before the game, and I know our viewers would just love to be able to see this, get a bit of an idea of what the players do. And we're also looking at Steve taking hold of Jack and getting ready to run down the race, and no doubt a special moment. And you, Craig, you've been a teammate of Steven's for 14, 15 years now. Just what does he mean to you?
Oh, just an absolute champion, and it's just great to see him get his just desserts, playing 250 games, full-back of the century, and he plays full forward as well as he does full-back. So I mean, he's one of those special players, and I'm pretty lucky to have played with him all those years, and it's just fantastic to see at the end of such a great career that he's getting all these kudos that he richly deserves.
Steve, we just watched you about to break through the banner with Jack there. Can you just walk us through your emotions? I mean, it must have been such a day full of emotion for you.
Yeah, it was actually. It wasn't too bad arriving to the game, but half an hour before the game I started to get quite nervous. But as you said, it's quite special to be able to run out with your son out on the G in front of 70,000 people. So a bit of a buzz for me, but hopefully Jack can look back in years to come and say, he was out there when I played my 250th. But yeah, it was, as I said, there was quite a bit of emotion there. But just happy to get away with the win at the end too, Stan.
Now, Sauce, we cover the big stories on this show as well. Tell us about the injury. How bad is it? How much are you going to miss? How'd you do it? And why did the football manager tell us it was a flu?
It was a flu? Well, no, actually I basically just went to smother a ball, and I probably overstrode a little bit. I wasn't too sure whether it was cramp or not, whether it was a slight strain in my hamstring, but I'll probably go out and tomorrow have a bit of a scan done on it and see how it comes up then.
I've just got one for you too, Craig. The influence of that move of Justin Murphy onto Alex McDonald today, which seemed to both get him into the game a lot more and give yourself an enormous amount of freedom. Do you see that as being a key to the turnaround today?
Yeah, certainly. I think there was a couple of good moves just before the half-time break where we had Franchina come on, Hume came on, Backwell came on, and Murph went to McDonald. So, I mean, there was a number of moves made, and we were in a bit of strife at that stage, so that was good.
And also, Craig, some of you young players, Adam White in particular, I thought he was really good for you, and little Backwell, he was a live wire once he came on.
He certainly was a live wire. He looked like he was going to take a couple of grabs there at a couple of stages, but it's great to see those blokes come on and make an impact like that, and we're struggling, and for the young guys to come on and do that was fantastic.
OK, Craig and Steve, thanks for being with us. We'll come back and join you very soon, so once again we appreciate the Carlton Football Club letting us come in on this private function. And of course, Steve Silvagni, he joins a select group, the all-time top 10, the players who've played the most number of games for the Blues, headed of course by the wonderful Bruce Stool and John Nichols. Craig Bradley, of course, will soon play his 300th game, and as you can see, the names there, Stan, what magnificent footballers each and every one has been.
Well, I was just talking to Rowan there. Rowan, your thoughts on that?
Well, it pains me to say this, being a supporter of another traditional club, but I reckon they've just about had more good players than any other club. I think just looking at those names there, that is a really elite group of footballers.
What I want to know, pal, is that how do they do it that every time there's a milestone that they play Collingwood? So that you can be at the G and you've got 70-odd thousand. I mean, somehow they do it. They manipulate it. They're a sensational club, aren't they? Somehow they do that.
I think they rig it, Stans. One Big Jack, I think, might have something to do with it. Well, the talking point today is the injury to Nathan Buckley, Collingwood captain, and it seems as if Nathan's broken his jaw.
So simple, Rob, wasn't it?
It happens in that incident there, and we might be able to have a look at it again. And he's dripping blood. He tells the runner, get away from me. He cracks hard. and he's really distressed there, Stan, and I tell you what, get away from me, he said to the trainer, I'll be okay, but when you've got a broken jaw, you're not okay, and unfortunately he'll be out for 4 to 6 weeks, Rowan.
Well, they were saying in the rooms afterwards, the talk was that his jaw actually might be broken in 2 places, so I'd say 4 weeks is probably a minimum and 6 is more likely, but yeah, as you said there, Stan, I mean, it's totally innocent, isn't it?
But also it's a terrible way to illustrate the character of the man. I mean, what he's done there is, I mean, obviously he's hurt, he knows that's hurt, but what he doesn't want to do is he doesn't want to detract and let his teammates know, or even the opposition, and what he's done there, I mean, I tell you what, I've wrapped in his skill and his ability, but I think now we just see another side of him. He's a very special person, that man. I mean, it's a hard way to say it, but I guess the other point, Rob, is the impact it's going to have on the Pies.
Well, that's right. I think they just haven't got enough talent as it is. I think Tony Shaw can't do much more than what he's doing. The players come out to play. They play with aggression, they play with spirit, they just haven't got the talent there, and they will now lack the leadership and the class of Buckley. One of the sad things is that at this current moment, I believe the 3 best players in the competition are out injured, and that's Buckley, Hurd and Wayne Carey.
Or throw Wren in and you've got a pretty handy...
Well, there's another bloke in your mob, Lockett. I mean, you know, that really, it's just amazing the attrition rate of the top performers at this point in time.
I guess the obvious thing out of this for Collingwood is they hate people suggesting that they're only Nathan Buckley. Is a perfect chance to prove they're not, isn't it?
Well, that's right. It's really bad luck for the Magpies, and I do feel sorry for Tony Shaw, but the trials and the tribulations of coaching. Another incident that occurred yesterday out at Waverley, and we'll have a look at it here, between Scott Chisholm and Big Spider Everett. And, well, we might see a little bit more about that there a little bit later on. And we can see Chisholm coming in, and Spider, Heatley, who's the other player, Ingerson of Melbourne. They're not at all happy, and Stan, you were there.
Yes, it was one of those ones where I think there was a fair bit of pressure on everybody at this stage. I mean, Melbourne were trying to get back into the contest. There'd been a fair bit of byplay. I think we might look at it a bit later on throughout the course of the day, but it was one of those things that happens at a very important stage in the whole contest. There is actually a lull in play and things like that, and when that happens, you know, there's a lot of that goes on, Rob, and I think that just that verbal sparring amongst everybody.
Yeah. Well, you can see Chisholm there, he's certainly not happy, and there's pointing of fingers and there's plenty of verbals going on. You're right, Stan, it was a passage of play where young Robinson was being stretchered off, so the play stopped, and that wasn't all that good. Here, Spider's just kicked a goal, and he immediately rushes over to Chisholm, has a few words to say, and Chisholm points, and well, we might hear more about that as the week goes on, Rowan.
Well, it's obviously a very sensitive topic, this, and you've got to be very careful before you go making accusations. I think the way it stands at the moment, the AFL is expecting to make an announcement as to where we stand on this within 24 hours. I guess the really important thing in this case is that, as far as Peter Everett's concerned, is that he has been through the mediation process before. There was an incident a couple of years ago involving Michael Long. So if the AFL does find that there is a case to answer this time, there won't be any mediation. It'll just go straight to the tribunal, and Everett will be allowed, and we stress this is if he would be allowed legal counsel.
There's Peter kicking that goal.
And another angle, Stan. It's another angle, same incident, but we see it from another angle, and
yeah.
Well, I don't know if you can lip read or not.
He's given him a bit of a spray, hasn't he? And I think that the point there is that we've got to keep a balance in this. I mean, both parties have come out and said that there was no racial vilification, but I guess the other point is that the umpire's pretty close to the action there, isn't he? And he'll make a comment. And this happened earlier on, didn't it?
This was before that incident, yeah.
I think Peter's a bit hardly done by this. I mean, he's taken the mark, and I think, personally, I just believe that the umpire made the wrong decision here.
I totally agree with you. Spider, and that's not going to make the big man happy, is it? Because he's taken the mark, and Chisholm's come in, and the umpire's reversed it, and there wasn't much to cause the reversal of that decision.
Not at all, not at all.
Well, we'll hear more about that as the week goes on, as we mentioned. Let's go back to the casino, Crown Casino, and we'll join Steve and, of course, his father Serge and wife Jo. Now, what are you laughing at, Steve?
Just that we've got Serge on screen here, Rob.
Well, do you think we need a wide lens? Now, I want to ask you something, Serge. You were there today with obviously a proud father watching Steven play his 250th, and you would have been looking after Jack for a little while there. Were you giving him some donuts through the game?
No, I just sort of had to get a bit of the atmosphere of the game and get them out in the centre of the ground early, because when you're out in the ground, you're out on your own, so we've started him off well getting the atmosphere.
And what was written on the back of his jumper there?
That's my daddy, but that's wrong, I'm not his dad.
Joe, we spoke to you earlier in the day, and you were hoping that Steve might line up at full forward, and you had a wish that he could kick, what was it, not just 5 or 6, but 15 you mentioned.
And Robert, I actually knew that he was playing full forward, but I kept a secret.
Well, it's good to see that you can be trusted with that. That's all good football wives keep their mouths shut when the husband comes home and says, I'm playing in this position or that. You must have been very proud of your husband today.
I was, but let me say, he doesn't volunteer the information. I basically have to strangle it out of him.
Oh, we were a bit worried about those bedroom secrets, actually, Joe. I mean,
Bedroom secrets.
Hey, it wasn't me, that was Stan. Sorry, Ron.
What bedroom secrets, Stan?
Well, you know how at night, I mean, you're in bed and you talk to each other about the events of the day, and he's lovely to tell you what the team selection is, and you've got to be very careful that you don't slip it because Parker will be around knocking on the door.
Bed is for sleep for Steve.
See, there's a secret.
You know, Steve and Serge, they actually have the record in the AFL of the most number of games combined, and the people at home, have a look at that. The sensational Silvagnis, well, our viewers will see that close to 500 games. It will be over 500 before this year's out. And Serge, I think, was around 238, and the wonderful Wittens were around the 465 combined, Ted Senior and Ted Junior. Serge, have you seen every one of Steven's 250 games?
I've probably missed about one game last year in Perth, that's about it. But I've got to thank you for my career, because you let me keep ruck roving when I couldn't run too quickly. You kept me out of that back pocket.
Well, what Serge is talking about, in the 1968 grand final, Barassi said Serge and Wolsey share the back pocket and ruck roving. I'm not kidding, Stan. I had 2 minutes on the ball, and he grabbed me by the scruff of the neck. He said, get back to the pocket, kid.
Joe, could I ask a question of you? We've asked Stephen about how he felt today. I mean, your husband and your son today, I mean, just a special moment, obviously, for you to see that happen.
Yes, it is. When I watched Essendon play Carlton last Thursday night, and Gary O'Donnell was doing his final lap, I felt a tear there, and watching Steve and Jack came out, I burst into tears, had to wear the waterproof mascara.
It's magnificent.
Serge, can Rita hear us?
No.
Well, Rita, congratulations to you. You've been a wonderful football wife and mother to Steven, and we know how proud you are. And you know what Rita does? She records Steven's kick-ins at fullback as a credit to him. That's how keen she is. So good on you, Rita.
Good on you, Rita.
Sauce, I just wanted to ask
Which
you,
one? Oh, Sauce.
Sauce, there's only one son of Serge there.
No, Jack.
No, he's a grandson. He's GSOS. I'm speaking of SOS, not GSOS. You've played in a few Collingwood Carlton games over the years. How many decent ones have you played in? Because they tend to be fairly scrappy, doer sort of affairs, don't they?
They're a bit like finals. There's a hell of a lot of pressure out there, but I mean, today wasn't a great game, but
it was a shocker. Let's not beat around the bush.
It was a shocker, was it?
I thought it was.
Well, fair enough. You were sitting in the stand, rowing again. But I thought the game was quite good after half time. But
is that because you weren't playing in it, or
you're probably right. You've got me.
And Serge, where do you like seeing him play? Nowadays he gets thrown from one end of the ground to the other. If you were the coach, and I know that you've been in the coach's box for many a year, but where would you have him play?
Probably in the midfield. He's just a natural runner.
And tell us, Serge, is the third generation, is young Jack as bow-legged as you and Steve?
Unfortunately, yes.
OK, well, look, thanks once again for joining us, Steve and Serge, Joe and Rita. Again, terrific achievement. You've joined the all-time greats at Carlton, and I know Mum and Dad are extremely proud of you. We look forward to you being back with us next week.
Well, enjoy it, Serge and Steve. But remember, son, you've got to be back next to Conley next week, and that's a real hard ask, isn't it, pal?
That is. I'll need a big game next week to stand next to Rowan. I'm ready for you. How are you going? You're growing in stature, aren't you, Rowan?
What was that?
Did you bring in your stats this week?
I'm saving them up for next Monday.
Okay, thanks once again. Well, terrific to see Steve Silvagni down there at Crown Casino, and he was having a crack at Rowan because every week we talked to Rowan before the show. One week he's a full forward, next he was a half forward flagger, and today he said he was a champion midfielder, so who knows, it's a different story every week. We're going to go to a break and we'll listen to some of the coaches now. We'll be having plenty of this as the year unfolds, and I just think it's a wonderful opportunity for you at home to listen to your coach at the after-match press conference, because they usually have very interesting things to say. After the break, we'll come back and talk to David Schwarz, Demon centre half forward.
I'm confident we'll get it right. You know, it's a hell of a lot harder getting to the top. So it's a hell of a lot easier getting to the top than actually staying around there. And we've stayed around there for a long while now, and I'm sure when it really matters most, we'll be up there, and I've got confidence in our guys to work their way through this rough patch that we're going through and getting it right.
On to Peter Riccardi, who we know can really roost the ball. He kicks it long towards half forward. The Bulldog backman swoop west. Oh, he's dragged as he went to handball it. Moody's got it. He might kick goal number 4. Oh, what a great goal. Geelong in front.
Statistically, by ours, I thought the kick-handball ratio between the two sides was nearly the difference as well. We pretty much had the same amount of possession, but they chose to kick out of trouble where we chose to handball out of trouble, and I thought that hurt us as well.
Clint Bizzle, and let's hope that's might be just cramp actually, as Lowther. Let's have a look what they're doing with him. Probably cramp.
Snell just got a bit of a knock on his leg, and Bizzle just cramped up, so I wouldn't think there's too many problems with either of those two guys.
Johnny Rombotis, he still wants to go with Griswell, and Bowden wants to go long, and he does, up towards half forward, only as far as Greg Stafford.
I was really happy with a lot of our guys, really. I mean, just the coach they showed and hung in there, and you know, it looked lost in the last 10 minutes, and we're able to get back to 5 or 6 points. But Goods was one. Stephen Carey was a real positive. I thought Stafford's leadership was terrific. Yeah, I don't think there was many really that didn't really have a fair dinkum dip today, so I was really pleased with that.
55th selection overall. So young Dragicevic, who come onto the ground this last quarter to replace Hilton. And he put the Tigers 2 straight kicks. That's a wonderful kick by the youngster.
We've had to, I guess, recruit and draft in the last year or two with the future in mind. And, you know, Otten's at 19, Dragicevic at 18 and Hilton at 19. Some of these lads, we're not taking a short-term approach to this. We're looking to build for the future, and we think in some of these kids they have a very rosy future.
Hot game, cool pie.
It's the only one with sauce.
The AFL pie.
Tonight on C7 Sport. Superstars of Wrestling, 9:30 tonight on C7 Sport.
April, and C7 Sports satisfies the appetite of the most insatiable sports fan. AFL. See more live and exclusive games than ever before.
What a great grab.
Plus, every Thursday, catch the boys on Footy Focus.
What a year it's going to be.
And Mondays, the preeminent review show, Football Feedback.
I think we're in for one rip snort.
Basketball.
Inside the Tims, what a move!
The Opals start their Olympic preparation with a 5-game series against the Cubans. Soccer. Live and exclusive Ericsson Cup continues with teams vying for that all-important finals berth.
Oh, what's a goal!
NRL.
What went wrong?
Join those likely lads for NRL winners live at exclusive Tuesday nights. Rugby. Live and exclusive, the Five Nations continues through April. Cricket.
That's going to be 4.
See exclusive highlights of the India-Pakistan one-day series. See more sport. See 7 Sports.
Melbourne has known its bleak days at Waverley. It's known a few of them against St Kilda. In recent years, pivotal events have been provoked by such encounters.
Melbourne can't keep on performing the way it's performing, so we have to make unpopular changes, and the board will meet in the near future, and in order we have to uplift, there has to be change.
A black hole was engulfing this football club. Time, it seemed, was running out. But now, such a loss brings with it only a resolve that next week will be better. And the fact that there is a next week for which to fight is soul-enriching stuff for both the Demons and a Warrior from whom the game has, at times, threatened to slip away. While Sunday was bleak, no catastrophe was to follow. And next week, for both Melbourne and David Schwarz, will surely be better.
Welcome back, and David Schwarz certainly is a warrior. He's had to overcome plenty, including 3 knee reconstructions, but he's back, and I thought last week he played an absolute crackerjack game at centre-half forward for the Demons in the season opener. David, welcome to the show. Good start against the Tigers, but yesterday, what happened?
Yeah, it was, well, the Tigers was great for us, and I think we certainly didn't underestimate St Kilda, but, you know, we came out there probably a little bit mentally weak. We're expecting them to come out hard, and we just couldn't win the footy. It was as simple as that. We just didn't win the ball around the packs. We weren't committed to chasing, and at the end of the day, we were chasing tails when really we had to win the footy, and we were reacting rather than, you know, really taking charge of the game.
Dave, there was a lot of talk about that, you know, you would have been ready for them and know they're going to bounce back. I mean, they were humiliated, and you would have done that. When do you on the field sense that the players aren't as tuned in? Because that's what it appeared to us, that your boys weren't as tuned in. Do you pick that up and sense that on the ground?
Yeah, you do, and I think it was the opening bounce where the ball got kicked into our half forward line, and Jeff Farm was caught behind. And you just can't get caught behind. It's probably one of the first things you realise, that when the ball comes down, especially the first contest, you're either beside your man or you're in front of him. And if you're behind him, well, I don't think you're prepared, especially for the first contest when you're fresh, you're right to go. It's all or nothing. And I think when Jeff was behind, it was probably an indication that maybe he wasn't on song, and maybe as a team we weren't on song.
Yeah. The other thing too, I'm interested because I felt that, and I agree with Robert, your first game was fantastic, which I saw. I also thought that yesterday that you worked very, very hard. I thought you're one of the players who could probably come up with your head held high. But I'm interested, playing in that centre-half forward position when you're getting walloped at centre bounces and the ball's really going into the opposition's forward line, and really the game's starting for you from the half-back line. How does that affect you and what you're going to do?
Yeah, it was certainly difficult. You had to readjust your planning. I think that the problem that we do have against St Kilda is that Alistair Clarkson has gone from Melbourne to St Kilda, and he knows their game plan pretty well. So we always start a little bit different, and on the weekend we started with myself, Nietzsche and A. McDonald right on the goal line, with Jeff Farmer by himself at the 50. And look, it probably didn't work because, as you said, they were coming from the half-back line, and when it was getting to Wizard, it was, you know, it was one-on-one, and the ball wasn't coming in at all that well. So Jeff relies on the ball to be coming in quickly because he's pace and he's quick thinking, and it just wasn't coming in like that. So we went back to our original game plan by Nietzsche at full forward and a couple of us out, and it just didn't come in well. We didn't win the ball, and when we did win it, we would just stop, start. You can't win footy if you don't move it.
Well, you had a chance at quarter time, I guess, to collect your thoughts, and Neil came out and presumably, you know, sort of tried to right the ship a bit, but second quarter wasn't a whole lot better, really. I mean, in fact, it was really only the third quarter when you clicked for the whole day. So what was said at quarter time, and why then do you think you weren't able to turn it around? Why was it sort of too far gone?
Yeah, a good question. We came in and we were all pretty flat. There's no doubt about that. When you get jumped, I think we're 8 or 9 goals down.
It was 8-1, yeah.
Yeah, it makes it, you still believe you're a chance, but I think the problem when we came in, we were just dumbfounded. We couldn't believe that we got outplayed like we did. They did it to us in the middle of the season last year also, and it's just one of those things we couldn't get anything to go right for us. Stinger had a shot for goal in the first quarter, hit the post, and just little things weren't going our way, and I think when you are going bad, it's really hard to change that flow, and I just think that we were probably a little bit weak, and we've certainly got to learn from it. We'll grow from it as a club. I thought that we were good in that we didn't really throw in the towel. It could have been a 100-point squad easily.
Looks like it at one stage.
Certainly the second half was much better. David, we've got some pictures. Our C7 cameras have gone into the rooms at St Kilda, and they're just coming out of the rooms there, Stan. Well, you're familiar with this situation. Coming out of the rooms, ready to head down the race. Yes. Evidently, they'd had plenty of meetings through the week, and that they wanted to have a really hot start. They wanted to get off to a terrific break, and they certainly did that with an 8-goal-to-1 first quarter.
Yeah, and I think that, look, there's an interesting thing, and David just mentioned there, that if you've played for a while, and those top players have, they've been in situations where they've been beaten by big scores, and they know what's needed to do. And obviously Tim's marshalled them during the week. He said that they trained absolutely superbly, and there's no doubt that when they were going out, they were a pretty committed side. And I think that what David's mentioned there is that if you go out I thought Everett was very good. I mean, not to put down young Nicholson, but it was a guy who's an All-Australian against a youngster. Getting the ball down so well. Thompson was superb. And I think that what happens, not only does St Kilda really pumped, but they pick up and they sense that the Demons weren't really switched on, and they grow an extra leg, and all of a sudden they think it's going to be our day. And so, I mean, that start was very important. So well done to them from that point of view.
Spider Everett did dominate the hit-outs at the centre bounce. It was something like 19-7, and I thought that Jeff Farmer got frustrated. Obviously, the ball not coming up there quick and clean, and at one stage he's gone around the back and charged in from centre-half back at a centre bounce, and unfortunately got himself, I thought he'd done his collarbone then, David.
I think we all did, yes.
And fortunately he hasn't. How is he?
I think he's just got a bit of a bruise on the shoulder, so he's certainly, he'll be right for this week, and he's a tough little competitor, Wizard. He'll be back.
How did you feel with Stuart Lowe dropping back unopposed in your space so often as he did? Because that's really hard work for a key forward when you've got an opposition ruckman filling your space.
It is, but it's part and parcel of footy now. Most clubs do it. They have a rolling defence or a looseman in defence. I just noticed every time we play St Kilda at a centre bounce, they've always got one or two more players than us.
He's low now, taking a sensational grab. I think he took 18.
Yeah, he had a super game. He just, he had the better of Anthony Ingerson well and truly. He was just, he's a big man. He's got a great set of hands, and he hadn't been in good form. And our key was, or our aim was, to really get on top of Stewie early, and did his confidence, and. But it was the opposite, though, unfortunately. He got his confidence up with a couple of good marks, and away he went.
Barry Hall, David, for St Kilda, really came in and threw his body around, really had a big impact early. Just interested in how players from opposition clubs see him. I mean, obviously he's a guy who can handle himself physically. He's also apparently, he showed it on Sunday, he's a pretty reasonable footballer. Is he a guy that really strikes fear into the hearts of opposition players?
Look, I don't think he strikes fear into them. A lot of people don't realise that Barry Hall is a great player. He's probably not a great player yet, but he's certainly got the skills. And once he matures and grows, and if he can control himself, he's going to be a very important part of St Kilda and their whole makeup. Because big guys who are agile with skills don't come along, every day. And I think that he's going to be really important to them.
Stan, you coach Barry Hall. What are the one or two things that he needs to do to become a regular player? Because he's been in and out over 4 or 5 years now.
Well, I feel strongly that all Barry's got to do is make a decision whether or not he wants to play football, just wholly and solely, and concentrate on that. Because I think the thing about him, he's big and strong, and we've just heard there, I mean, an opposition player said that this guy can play footy. His biggest problem is that he's volatile. And in a situation, we just saw him, he can knock players down and do that. What he can't do is he can't react to somebody having a bit of a go at him. Yeah. And I think that if he's able to marshal himself in that area, he can be an outstanding player. I mean, I don't think he needs to do anything other than that. He's got strength, he's got natural ability and talent. He can be well, one of the best big men in the game, because it's everything as David has just mentioned. I mean, he's not only good in the air, but he's good on the ground, and he can finish off by scoring well.
David, Jamie Shanahan will be back next week. He's 2 weeks suspension over. How far away is Jeff White?
Yeah, I think Whitey's a chance. I believe he'll probably miss one more. They're certainly not going to rush him back. You know, we're not in panic mode yet, but we've got Stephen Phoebe coming back either this week or next week. We've got Glenn Lovett coming back this week or next week. We've got a few players to come into the side, so it'll just, you know, strengthen us up a little bit and really just top us up and hopefully be that little bit difference between 44 points and, you know, winning a game.
And you go down to Geelong and they're playing 4 tall forwards. How will you come up against that? Because it's tested certainly the first 2 clubs that Geelong have come up against so far.
Yeah, sure. We've also got Matthew Bishop coming back also, so he's 6'4". We've got Jamie Shanahan coming back. We've got Ingo. So we've got 3 good tools, and Marcus Seacamp can play on tools as well. So I don't think that'll be our worry. I think just stopping their you know, free flow play, the run, the short kicks, and just the push down the ground, that'll be our worry. Counteract that, you know, quick counter attack, and you know, hopefully we can get away with a win.
David, thanks for joining us, and good luck for next week. It'll be a real good game down at Cardinia Park, or Shell Stadium as they now call it.
Sadly.
So we'll look forward to that game, and to you, all the best for the rest of the season. As we go into the break, we're going to have a look at more coaches, the men who are under the pump, and after the break, I guess the guy who's been under the pump more than anyone over the last 20 years, Kevin Sheedy.
The Hawks able to read it best, and Crow takes the mark and played on. The umpire didn't call it. Rotherham gets it across. It's a goal to Adelaide.
The pleasing thing is, I suppose, we've now got 6 new players that at least are going to taste what a victory feels like. So from that point of view, from a club point of view, that's very pleasing.
Unload. Jarman trying to ease off the back, but from the side, there's Burton.
What you get with them, though, is a bit of inconsistency. You know, last week we had a few up and a few down, and you know, and tonight was a bit dissimilar. I mean, you know, they play a bit of patchy, and I suppose the more they play, the better they're going to be. But I think from a team point of view, you probably don't get that consistency throughout the team. But as I said, I'm just pleased from tonight. They'll actually feel as though they've contributed something to a win, which is, I think that's the first time you probably feel as though you're in a footy club for real then.
So Ian Downsborough, Mrs. Downsborough's boy. Have a look at this. This is a sensational looking kick. There's a touch. A goal. I reckon it might be a goal. Jarman says it is, and it is.
I think it just gave us an indication that we've still got a bit of work to do before we can consider ourselves you know, being able to compete with the real good sides in the competition.
It's out in the path now. Malloy needs to take the ball and protect himself. Williams was right there with him. Lapping from 50, attacks the goal square. It's accurate. Is it long enough? It's there.
That was a really intense game there today. I mean, blokes were both sides just kept throwing themselves at the contest. I was proud of our blokes, really, but we didn't have quite enough run to kick a good enough score to win the game. But the effort was terrific, and as long as we can get that kind of effort, then we're going to be a competitive team in any part of the country. And so I was more disappointed we didn't win, but pleased with it, you know, really pleased with the effort.
Here's Phil Matera. He wheels around, taking from tackle. Back now to Rintoul. Back to Cousins. Running into some trouble there. Embley in the way. Steps back around as Cousins kicks the goal.
I'm not going to draw any individual, Kim. As I said to the players after the game, I thought we had 22 players that all played their part. It was a terrific bench we had. It was, you know, a couple of those players on the bench were a bit underdone, so it was important to play them and then get them off and play them again. And I thought at the end of the day, we were able to get 22 players to contribute to that victory.
Vacant half forward. Ball from behind. He's back from suspension. Gets it off to Mitchell. Open goal square. Goal to Gavin Mitchell.
Gavin was bubbling along at training, and probably his performances in the reserves may not have warranted a selection this week. But I just had a feeling that, you know, he was ready just to sort of blossom. He had a bit of an interrupted pre-season, but what he did today was very good.
The hell I wish.
Also been him.
There's the siren. The Saints are back in town.
From a group point of view, we're very disappointed in the way we play, and I think we can expect a big improvement from every player in our squad for Geelong next week. And look, Geelong are probably the hottest team in the competition, so if we don't improve, and I know we will, you know, they can kick goals, and we've seen that. But I think you'll see a different outfit next week, boys.
that seduced fame and fortune, power and pleasure.
Freeze! Police!
Everything is suspect. Everyone has a price. Nothing is what it seems.
Let's get out of here. It's too late.
Australia's own Russell Crowe and Guy Pearce.
Give your career a rest. Leave her alone.
Kim Basinger in her Academy Award-winning role with Kevin Spacey and Danny DeVito.
You need evidence.
LA Confidential. The television premiere begins soon on Movie One.
Optus Vision is about to change the way you watch sport. More exclusive AFL all season on C7. More of this year's NRL with the big boys returning to glory. The best local and international club soccer. More NBA. More rugby. More cricket. More boxing. More of the biggest and best sports coverage you'll ever see. With 5 channels dedicated to sport 24 hours a day. There's no other place to see more sport. Optus Vision.
They invite us into their lounge room and into their lives.
My interests are like doing it, and that's about it.
Their very words have changed the English language as we know it today.
You dumbass. Butt off. Butt burglar.
Some people call them morons.
Ow. Ow.
We prefer to call them Beavis and Butthead, heroes of a generation. 6:30 tonight, only on...
Does Kevin Sheedy laugh or cry? His Bombers have started brightly. Wins over foes many expected beyond the Dons have his side on top of the heap. He has men of influence.
Long, oh what a player he is. Genius at times. Oh, he couldn't quite take the mark, but he goes Michael Long.
And brilliance.
Mercury also clever, gets around, bounce, kick a goal here. 45 out.
Fit and firing. So, amid the gloom and doom predicted by so many,
I reckon they get the amount of ball they used to have in midfield. They look a bit slow out of midfield. It's just not that sort of dynamic.
Why wouldn't he be laughing? Some say he won't be back this year. Some say he simply won't be back. Surely that's the reason, one suspects, Kevin Sheedy mightn't be smiling the smile Top Spot would normally provide.
Welcome back. Those press conference grabs that we go into the breaks with, aren't they fantastic? And we'll be showing them right through the season, so look forward to those. It's with a lot of pleasure that we introduce our next guest, and that's Kevin Sheedy. Kevin, welcome to the show. 425 senior games as coach of Essendon, 50 Ansett Cup games, 19 years as a coach. What makes you happy?
I'd say probably just finding talented players and getting an opportunity to try and keep getting a club up there in the finals every now and then, and hopefully to the top 4, which might get you to a grand final. I mean, they're hard to get to, and you know, when you lose a guy like Hurd and these sort of blokes, and Michael Long, I mean, Michael Long, just to have Michael Long back is just a pretty handy player, because he might just turn the game for you. And I just don't think a lot of people don't realise that class player can hurt you so badly if you lose them. You know, we've lost another one now, but getting one back is just a bonus. That's Michael. You know.
Kev, 2-0, which is fantastic there, but again, that injury, I mean, and surely James would have played a major role in your thought over the summer period as to his role within the club in the season. I mean, what are your feelings now, and what direction will you take?
Well, I've spoken to Jim about the direction we probably have to take right now, and we'll need to sit down as a club and a match committee, and Michael Long will be captain for the next period until Jim comes back. Now, we're not quite sure when Jim does come back, but you know, it's just a situation where all of us have to lift and make sure. We haven't had much of Jim Hurd actually for the last couple of years, really. I mean, the games he's played, he's either might have come off, and he's played some great games. But, you know, if you played 20 in the last 45 matches, he's you know, it's just disappointing.
It's a sorry sight, that, isn't it? We're sitting on the video at the moment. It's just, even people, I forget the Essendon supporters, but the game, I mean, we just don't want to see that, do we?
You're going to have, we lose Buckley. I watched the Magpies today, and you've got Carey out, and Lockett may have that Achilles at the present time. So there's a few boys going down, and of course Colbert's out for the year. Yeah. That's the Geelong's captain, you know.
I just wanted to ask, when it became apparent that the stress fractures weren't healing, in fact they were opening up again. I think that's what the story was in about February. I just wondered why he wouldn't have had the surgery then. Why attempt to play at all? Why not get it over and done with then?
Well, there's no answer to that, really. I mean, it's a maybe. We probably got a final X-ray done somewhere about a couple of weeks to go. Maybe he didn't go to Perth, I don't think, for the final practice match. Now, you can wait another week or two, or do you try and get 4 or 5 or 8 games out of him? No one was sure how long it would take for his foot to break down again. No one could give us an answer.
So how, like before, say the Carlton game, the North Melbourne game, how?
Probably, I'd say we got 2 games out of him that we may not have got.
Right.
Kevin,
we may have got 6.
Yeah.
Kevin, there's been some talk about the boots that James Hird wears, and we'll look at the pictures here. It appears as if he's wearing Reebok boots, but they've been painted out. Now, has he been happy with the footwear which he's been required to wear?
Our club has just changed with our boot contract in regard to Reebok, and our players are now allowed to wear boots of their choice because of that. Reebok are happy to do with to be able to do that for us. But I don't think it's been only the boot. It's more or less the operation hadn't mended properly.
When did you find out as coach that he was finished for the game on Thursday night?
I'd say probably 10 minutes into the second quarter.
And how did you feel?
Oh, well, look, I mean, I've been through it with Watson with his knee operations, and I've been through it with Michael Long with 3 operations. Neil Danaher was the first one. I lost him as soon as he won the best and fairest. I mean, it just about cost us any opportunity to win the 1981 Premiership. We won 16 day games on end and 3 Ansett Cup games, so we won 21 games on end, and or 18 or 19 games on end, I should think. But look, we've lost a lot of those good players. Look, I just think for Jim, I just wouldn't like to see people in general get on his back about being, you know, a well-played player who's injured and hasn't been worth it. He has definitely been worth every game he's really ever played for the club. He's just going through a hard stretch. We've actually had players, no different than Michael Long, no different than Mark Harvey, missed a couple of years out of it. Dean Wallace has missed 3 years out of it. You know, we just happen to have those 2 or 3 guys all the time that are just missing a year or 2 or 3.
Kev, just change it a bit. The side gets out of the block so quick. The swift starts. I mean, you're really fantastic. If you have a look here, I'm not just talking just this year, but under you. I mean, just have a look at that in the 19 years. You know, look at that, the swift starts.
Well, I think every coach would love that. What's the secret to it, Sheedy?
Look, I think that we've always had a reasonably good list. I reckon that recruiting's important. I think that our preparation generally coming up to matches. We got beat last year by Richmond by only about 10 points. We've always probably prepared ourselves to get into a reasonably good, strong position, hopefully early in the season. You know, it doesn't always work, let's face it. I mean,
well, 93 when you won the flag, you were 11th after about 7 rounds. So.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that was a situation where we had to replace about 2,000 games of experience have retired on us in that last year or 2, and we just put 6 kids in that were our last batch of 119 players, and we just went for broke and took every risk in the book we could, and we're still doing it now. We probably play McVeigh in the round 1, and we'll play McVeigh and Rioli in this next round in round 3. One's a 17-year-old draft choice. Rioli's a rookie. I just think that if you keep turning that player, I think Malcolm Blight's done an excellent job in that in regard to the last couple of years. You know, where he's probably, you know, won a premiership, bang, goes another 5. This year in goes another 5, and he got up and won by just a kick the other night, didn't he, really, with 4 or 5 blokes that no one had ever heard of. And to me, I think that is a bit of a secret of looking for that group of players that might just have the hunger to win it.
Kevin, Mark Mercuri, just been terrific. I know it's early days, but his form's been sensational. And we have a look at the pictures here of Mercuri, and, well, he's a finisher. There's been some talk that perhaps he hasn't got the stamina to play in the midfield. We'll ask you that in a second. But we'll just see the ball's in the middle of the MCG. Michael Long cleverly taps it across to Mercuri. He gets off a long handball, dragged to the ground, and he just butters up. He keeps running and running and running, and Wallace gets the handball out. And there he is again. So he's run well over 100 metres. A very good player, very talented player. Easy player to coach?
Oh, yes. Yeah, he is. He's, look, he's a terrific person and an excellent player. And look, everybody feels that Mark has never reached his full potential yet. That may be so, but he's had some damn good players ahead of him to try and win best and fairest too. And I think that he is definitely fitter. He feels that himself. He's trained very, very hard. We've got a new fitness coach in from the RAS, John Quinn. Now he'll play more in the midfield, and particularly with City out and Hurd out, he definitely will play more in the midfield.
Does he get the kudos he deserves, do you think, or is the fact that he's, I guess, played second fiddle to Hurd and been part of that group of baby bombers has sort of seen him not get the credit perhaps he deserves? I mean, he's just a wonderful player.
Look, he probably doesn't. He probably doesn't, but he makes a Victorian side. He's a class player. He should make, hopefully, an All-Australian side. I like to give my players challenges and individual challenges as well as team challenges, but look, he is a class player. The classic goal the other night there against Carlton was just a sensational goal to straighten up, balance and get within 3 or 4 steps, and you put it through the middle was excellent. So, look, he's always had that, and probably it's good for him and Michael Long to sort of, I think personally, Rioli's got a bit of that too. You haven't seen Rioli yet.
I think we might see a few little bits of Michael Long, because you've just talked about him there. I mean, and you're going to give him the captaincy. It looks as if, Kev, that he's ready to take it too, isn't he? Yeah, well, look, Jim felt that, we've got to move into that direction, keep the team's momentum going, and look, if we can get back by round 15 or round 18 or 20 or whatever, I mean, Michael's our senior vice captain, and I think that's probably one area where clubs have needed to have a couple of vice captains around. Is he a good leader, Kev? I mean, tell us a little bit, because we see him out on the ground, don't we, and we see him play the game. But tell us a little bit about the Michael Long, the leader. Share it with, especially the Bomber fans. Well, first of all, he's a very caring person, and always cares about his teammates. And if he thinks that we're going down the wrong avenue on that decision, he would like to talk to your coach for a while. Just want to have a chat about a couple of things. And he's always been prepared to come and we'll give you a ring and say, look, I wouldn't mind having lunch and having a chat to you over an issue. So, and he's always had a great sense of humour too, which really makes the players laugh and get a bit happy. Isn't that terrific as a coach to have a player give you a call and say, hey, I want to have a chat to you, because it doesn't happen all that often. Not enough. What happened through the week, Kevin, as far as the Nicky Winmar, Sam Newman controversy? There was plenty of debate about that. Did Michael Long talk to you about that? Look, we had actually Jim Steins come out, and he's on a program with the AFL. And it was great because it was one of our lectures for the week in regard to just basically footy. We had a coaching session, and then quite often we might have the umpires come out, or we might have the boys from the drug office come out and talk about drugs, so players understand all of that. But we had a racial vilification and understanding the whole issue, and that so that was only last week. And of course, we discussed it, and Michael just spoke up about how he had felt about certain things over the time, and Jim Steins had about being an Irish guy who was always sort of given a bit of a heck of a hard time over that. So it was a different sort of thing. But Michael's always had his hand up to discuss why things should be sort of dealt with properly and respected.
Matthew Lloyd came out last week. There was a press conference with Gary Durko and Matthew Lloyd. Well, it just struck me. I was going to ask you, do you think Essendon players are perhaps more sensitive to these issues because they've played with more Aboriginal teammates than perhaps a lot of blokes at other clubs? I think over the last decade, Essendon's probably had more Aboriginal players than just about any other club. Yeah, Matthew Lloyd will be sensitive about anything because he's an absolutely genuine person. He thinks it's probably wrong anyway. Forget about anything else. Matthew Lloyd is probably a classic person who could be captain of Essendon one day because his own genuine feeling as a person. He's one of the most pleasant young men you'd ever meet, and he would say that just out of his own upbringing. But have the presence of guys like Longy and Gavin Wanganeen given those blokes a better appreciation of this whole issue? Maybe so, but if we didn't have an Aboriginal boy or two playing for Essendon, I still think Matthew Lloyd would probably make that comment. That's the type of guy he is, Yeah, but Kev, it's not just the Aboriginals within the club, because one of the things I've noticed about you is the fact that you will take your players to play up in Northern Territory. So those kids like Matthew, you've actually got them up into the backyard of the Aboriginals and that, so they really can understand it. I mean, that's you get a feeling for it. I mean, I remember Robert was coach of Brisbane at one stage, and no one wanted to go up to Cairns to play you. That's right. 26th of January 1991. And he said, look, about 48 degrees. And Robert Wall's on the line here, and I go, Wall's ringing me, a Richmond back pocket and a Carlton centre arm for him. You never forget that Richmond Carlton stuff, do you? Never ever do. But he said, look, no one wants to play us. We need to promote the game up in Cairns. Would you come? And I said, we'll get back in a day or two, and we did. So, out of that,
The player, the water boy that day was Che Cockatoo Collins.
Really?
That day.
Well, that's an introduction.
Yeah, an introduction.
I didn't know that. It's an introduction.
He was a bit inconsistent, though. He ran out a couple of bottles early and then disappeared.
Kevin, what about this fella, Dean Rioli? Will he come onto your list now?
Yeah, he will. We've spoken at the club, and Peter Jackson feels that we will be now able to, with consultation with the AFL naturally, bring Dean onto the list, and we replace either young Johnson or Hurd on the injured list, which is, I think it's been a terrific decision by the AFL for that, and I think it's, let's face it, with the way they want the Ansett Cup to be run, and they've allowed the rookies to play in that. But here's a classic case where some clubs are now looking for their rookies to be added on to the list. Not only us, but I think 2 or 3 clubs have already done it. So
the payments for the players that go on the injured list aren't included in the cap, are they?
Look, I'm not quite sure. It depends naturally on the player's contract.
I was just thinking, if James Hurd were to go on the injury list, it'd probably leave quite a bit of room in the salary cap.
Oh, no, I don't think it actually works like that, to be quite honest. I'm pretty sure that I was told that it didn't. I think it'd probably be more so for a player like maybe a Mark Johnson.
Rowan, you can ask Kevin while we're going to the break, because Kevin's going to stay with us for the rest of the show, which we're delighted with. As we go into the break, have a look at the pictures here of West Coast player Philip Matera. Peter Matera, in fact. No, it's Philip. It's Philip Matera, Stan. We were right in the first place. P. Matera. No matter what, he is an angry ant. If you've ever seen an angry ant on a football field, this fella is an angry ant. And after the break, we'll come back with the best of the best.
This would even put a smile on Mickey Malthouse's face.
Marcus Ashcroft across the ground. Risky. Doing well, Matera. Philip to knock it away from Clark. Clark batted up again. Got it to O'Bui. Run down from behind by Matera. Ball loose inside the centre square. Gardner back to the runner, Philip Matera. Looking for Gehrig on the lead. Couldn't hang on. Still Gehrig right on his own 50. Knocked away by Notting. Picked up by Huskers. Hand passes about 15
tonight.
He's experienced something none of us ever will, the feeling of being the fastest person on the planet. He is, of course, Linford Christie. And then you went to Atlanta. What happened? Can you take us through that?
It's simple, they cheated me. It was nothing about what happened. I mean, my idea of a false start is if you react too soon before the gun. They told me I reacted too soon after the gun, and I can't see that being a false start.
The Tracy Holmes Show, tonight at 9 on C7 Sport.
The following offer is unbelievable but true. Buy now on 2 years interest-free terms at Harvey Norman. 2 years interest-free terms on furniture, electrical, bedding, Manchester, computers and much more. Buy now and pay no interest for 2 years. That's 2 whole years interest-free. What a deal. Now's the time to buy, and Harvey Norman's the place to buy. This is a limited offer, so don't miss out. 2 years interest-free terms from Harvey Norman. Conditions apply. See store for details.
Oh no, they're back. Lou, Bob and Jack on this special gourmet edition of League Teams.
I love bangers and mash. Sausages, they are. Well, they have a big bag of sausages.
These are the fabulous grand finals of the 60s. The biggest names, 10 great matches together in this double video collection. 6 hours of football nostalgia. Hit the boundary line. Dial this number now. Get your boxed set for only $49.95 plus postage. Do it now.
It's the race to the finals of Australia's National Soccer League, the Ericsson Cup.
Oh, acrobatic, that's special. That is special.
Friday night live at 7:30, Northern Spirit take on the Adelaide Sharks. Sunday night at 7:30, Carlton do battle with Perth Glory. Then at 3 a.m. Monday, catch the action of the Sydney United and South Melbourne clash.
What a cracker that was.
Catch the superstars of Australian soccer in the Ericsson Cup. See more soccer. C7 Sport.
And first up, a Darren Buick classic. Have a look at this one. I guess we've all seen it, especially the Bomber fans. Outside 50, and he's not worried about passing. Have a look at this one.
As Cat's new scoring machine of the AFL, here's a ripper. Ronnie Burns, check side from the tightest of angles.
Ronnie Burns, what a kick! Goal!
Taken away. Now the athleticism of Matthew Richardson, where he beats a couple outside 50 again, gets around, bounces up, sizes up, That's a boomer. Look at this.
Too good. Great goal.
So well, we all know about Hawthorn's physical attitude and how accountable they've been. Look at this great gang tackle on Mark Buckley.
Now Fraser Gehrig, who played such an important part in the West Coast victory, again struggles clear. Long way out. Boomer.
And wants some skill? How about this? Scotty Chisholm, a chest mark in flight without looking.
Gee, that was a great mark there by Scotty Chisholm.
They trialled by 16. Now look at this is Peter Burgoyne. The difference here, I think Burgoyne knows what he's doing. He's a very classy young man, this boy. Look at him. Controls the ball in traffic, goes to give off. Look at this. That is a great bit of play.
Great action shots once more. Thanks for being with us. Well, a week's a long time in football, and I guess for rookie coach Tim Watson, it sounds and feels as if it must have been more like a year. He's been in the news after they got poleaxed up in Brisbane, and there were various things said and written through the week that Tim didn't seem to agree with. And Rowan, it's been hard to keep up with it all. I know you've been in the middle of it.
Now, Rowan.
And you've been in the firing line, and Patrick's loaded the gun and you fired the bullets, or what? Tell us what's happening.
Well, I'll just try and encapsulate it in a nice little amusing, witty anecdote. Basically, at the start of this week, Patrick Smith wrote a piece about Tim Watson's nightmare coaching debut. I think he spoke to Rodney Eade in the sense that Rocket had lost both his first two matches as Sydney coach, got some comparisons from him. Tim, it's fair to say, wasn't overly impressed with that, and I think made contact with Patrick to discuss that column. Patrick wrote another column on Saturday morning, which I think equally didn't go down that well, and I think it's fair to say that when the media turned up for Tim Watson's post-match press conference yesterday, he was well and truly waiting for a representative of the Age to ask him a question. Unfortunately, that representative was me.
And how'd you cope?
I coped all right, but you know, I think we've got some footage here, and we'll get the chance to make up your own mind. But yeah, you know what it's like. You're a veteran of enough press conferences.
19 years, 25 games a year.
Let me feel that skin. It's pretty thick, I think, particularly around the neck.
Man of steel, mate.
You know, Kevin, it all started here a week ago. It started a week ago here on C7 with this fella between us, and I thought his comments were quite harmless, to be honest. And what he said, well, you listen to them. You listen to them.
Yeah, one of the things that probably was amazement to me, they got hammered at the centre bounce takeaways, and yet they tell me that you know, they didn't start with Everett, and they didn't have Harvey, and they didn't have Burke in there at the one time. And I would have thought that when you play away, and you want to set the scene early in the season, and you've got your three leaders who have been equal to anybody in the takeaways, and not to have them there. You know, I think that perhaps people got to ask some questions, and they've got to get them back there, especially if they're playing Melbourne next week, and if they don't get them back in the midfield at Waverley, well, you know, I just can't believe that you can have a better combination in there than those guys.
Kevin, what did you think of that?
9 out of 10. I'm going to rate it. I don't
what
think
do you
the
take
trouble
the point off for?
Well, probably in the end, you got the last coach of St Kilda, so I mean, you're going to get into trouble, aren't you? Whatever way you're going to go. But it was a good comment. I mean, they're good players, and they weren't in the centre and all that sort of stuff. But look, this is only the early part of the season, and you go away and you do try things in matches, and they do or don't come off. But what happens in clubs and coaches is that you never know what problem some of the players do have. Like, you never know whether Everett can't jump or something like that, or so they put someone else in the centre square. There's always generally something that can happen that, or the player really can't play in the midfield at the moment because he hasn't got enough practice matches under his belt. So those things do happen. But, you know, when you really think about it, I mean, I was thinking when I was watching the before, Geelong with all these goals, you kicked, you know, 44 goals plus 4 starts of a quarter. You can imagine the ruckman, like an Everett, if he got in a game like that, he's got to jump 48 times.
Yeah, that's right.
There's a lot of things that go in a game.
Stan, what did you feel about the reaction to your comments?
Well, firstly, Rob, I've got to be honest with you that I felt that really the comments that were made, and I didn't get any reaction from Tim. I think this is the first thing, is that most of the reactions seemed to come from Andrew Plimpton, and I got the impression that really it was made probably because he was told second-hand that I'd had a go at Tim and being the ex-coach. But there's no doubt that there was nothing personal about that. I just made an observation, and I think my comment, my thing really was, and to go along with Kevin, is that I think some questions need to be asked because to find out what the answers were. Now, I think unfortunately it was taken up by Andrew and probably taken in a personal way. And my feeling is at the end of the day, it's probably something that could have just died a death very easily. But unfortunately, by turning into a personal situation, I think it just puts more pressure back onto Tim.
Yeah.
You know, that's my real feeling, and that's the person who I just feel has been probably wrongly done by because of the way it's been handled.
Well, they had a win yesterday, of course, St Kilda, and we'll listen to Tim Watson at his after the game press conference. And Rowan, you feature once more.
Look, I've been amused by some of the comment about some of the comments from people here during the week, and bemused, I suppose. But look, I've got my philosophy about the way the game should be played, and I'm not going to respond to one loss. I mean, that would be ridiculous. I thought there was a total overreaction to one loss. I thought that. But look, that's the nature of the business. I mean, I've been sitting where you guys are now 12 months ago. And I just thought that there may have been a little bit more balance in it. But look,
but who overreacted? Was it the media or was it other people?
No, no one in the club overreacted. I mean, they're much more sane than that. I mean, it was the media that overreacted. I mean, surely you, Rowan, having been in the media for a long time, would recognise that. We're talking about one loss at the start of a season.
I think it was probably the manner of it that caused everyone to react.
Yeah, but everybody's lost games.
I mean, your president had some fairly strong comments to make.
He wasn't talking about our performance. I mean, he was talking about some of the players and the way that obviously he thought that perhaps they didn't approach the game last week. But I wasn't unhappy with the way the players approached the game last week. I was unhappy with the way we performed last week, but I mean, we've put all that behind us.
You still think everyone will get one of those sort of touch-ups throughout the years? Just that you got yours in the first round.
Look at Melbourne today. I mean, the wheels fell off for Melbourne. I mean, they came back in the third term. But I mean, everyone's going to get a toweling from time to time. I mean, when the floodgates open in modern-day football, they open, and everybody walks through, and it's very difficult to stop.
Sounds all right to me.
I've given you enough.
Interesting stuff, isn't it? I suppose you will have noticed once he got whatever it was off his liver, he warmed up a little bit. But I thought it was a bit of an overreaction to an overreaction, really. I just wondered if the fact that he'd been at Channel 7 for a while and spent a bit of time around the cast of Home and Away had anything to do with it. Because a little bit of melodrama, I thought.
Now, Rob,
I think you're niggling, you guys. You niggle.
But what we just saw there, I mean, that is one of the toughest things in footy, isn't it? I mean, straight after that after-match and you're in that situation. It's not one where you can prepare for during the week. But, I mean, you wrote an interesting article during the week. I mean...
Well, I did, and the basis of the article was that I believe today...
Big question by the kid, wasn't it?
I think well, it goes back. I was at Deakin Uni talking to some students there, and this kid says to me, if you drank Foster's from the age of 18 to 38 for 20 years, does that qualify you to be the Chief Executive Officer of CUB?
Well, did John Elliott, didn't he?
I said, no, it doesn't. And then he fired at me, well, how come Tim Watson gets to coach St Kilda when he's done no coaching apprenticeship? And it made me think of the coaches who have been appointed in the last 2 or 3 years. Neil Danaher, 10, 11-year apprenticeship. Terry Wallace, 5 or 6 year. Rodney Eade, 5 or 6 year. Choco Williams with Port Power, 6 or 7 years, had time with Kevin. And Jeff Geeshan, the list goes on. And all I said was, I think today, and be interested in your thoughts, Kevin, you and I virtually jumped from playing into coaching, but that was 20 years ago. The game's changed, and I think to learn about coaching by being in the hot seat is a very big ask of anyone, and particularly for Tim, because he hasn't been at a league club for the 5 years that he hasn't played. So it's not as if he's going out of playing into coaching. For 5 years he hasn't played. He's been around the scene, but the grilling that you get at the aftermatch, and you've had it for 20 years, and Stan, you know what it's like, even worse when you lose, nothing prepares you for that, unless you've been an assistant coach and you've sat beside the senior coach and seen what goes on.
Yeah. I actually, at some stage, we'll bring my coaching staff in to be questioned after a match this year, just for them to get that experience, I think Terry and Harvey and Robbie Kerr and these sort of guys that probably have never had it, and they probably need to sit down and say, all right, Harves, answer that question about the back line.
How do you reckon they'll go?
I think that'd be very good, because, I mean, it's preparing coaches for what, Roberts, you're saying here, but, to me, I just think that, it is a very difficult job. You don't win the premiership if ever, you know, I've got 3 premierships, what's that, 6 hours of happiness in 19 years? Gee, it's a big one, isn't it, you know?
Look at the tapes a bit more, you might enjoy it.
Oh.
Look, it continued on today, Rowan, and Patrick Smith, who is a member of our panel, he's in here pretty regularly. Well, Patrick, on the radio today, spoke to Tim Watson, and, well, it didn't stop, it continued on. So let's listen to the verbal conversation between Patrick Smith and Tim Watson.
But I must admit, I thought that it was a very curious press conference you had afterwards.
Yeah, I read your article this morning, actually, Patrick. I thought you'd fallen asleep in the press conference yesterday, but you're obviously awake.
No, it was just the silly answers you were giving to the questions that were quite legitimate.
Which bit should I have been embarrassed about, Patrick?
I would have thought the whole press conference, Tim. I think, excuse me.
Specifically what though?
Your behaviour.
And
the manner in you answered some questions. I realise that you're just in your second year, a second game as a coach.
No, it's and the first year as a coach. Yeah.
Second game as a coach, Tim. Just you concentrate this time. Now, I realise that you're very vulnerable, and I think that you've had a stellar career as a player, and I know you're not used to criticism. But I thought I've seen a lot of press conferences, but I thought that was one of the most childish exhibitions of a coach.
Well, what actually happened, Patrick? Take us through what happened.
Which bit was childish, Patrick?
Oh, well, just the answers, as I've said, Tim, the answers that you gave to a question. Now, I can't remember the question verbatim, Tim, but it was, how much of an impact did the Brisbane match have on your attack on the ball? And you said none, and then just left it at that. And then asked again to sort of to expand on what clearly was a major difference in the performance of the two teams from Brisbane to Melbourne. You asked to expand on that, and you said, well, one game was played in Brisbane and one was played in Melbourne. Well, I mean, they're just childish reactions to questions. Well, definitely. I mean, you're a senior coach. You're asked legitimate questions. You ought to be able to.
And did I not answer the questions in the end?
No, you didn't. You just gave petulant answers, Tim.
Petulant.
I just think that.
Well, I'm glad I'm glad you're getting it off your chest then, anyway, Patrick.
No, you got it off your chest.
I'm glad you're getting it off your chest.
And I believe.
Have I actually done something to you in the past? Have I?
Tim,
have I done something to you in the past? Have I, Patrick?
Tim, I believe that you should. I mean, I think you've had a stellar career as a player.
Yeah, no, you said that before, Patrick. You're going back over old ground now.
You haven't
Try
got
and make a new point.
You haven't got much. I'll make a very valid point in a second. And you're on very shaky grounds for a person who started his career as a coach by lying to the media about whether he was appointed or not.
So it goes right back to there, does it? Okay.
No.
At least I've been able to flush it out now, Patrick. Anyway.
You haven't, Tim.
You've been harbouring this for 6 months, have you?
Well, that's absurd, Tim, and you're doing yourself no favours now. I'm just.
Or can we move on and talk about the game yesterday then? BT, have you got a question that you'd like to ask?
Yes, I have.
Tim, excuse me, Tim.
Have you got a question, BT?
Tim, have you finished with that, have you? You've got to learn to take criticism, Tim. And
well,
until
Patrick,
you do that, you will find it very difficult coaching at this level.
Well, that's... I didn't enjoy that, to be quite honest. I didn't enjoy it in the least. And, you know, I just... Well, I feel strongly that I just hope that Tim doesn't lose focus of what he's on about. I mean, look, he's at the start of his career, and he's got a lot of positive things ahead of him, and we've talked about how difficult it is, and it's not to put him down in any shape or form, but I don't think he can afford or allow all these things now to come in and just wash over him. You know, it's time. It's just back to basics and really get on with what he needs to do, and that's coach the Saints. I mean, they've got to go over and play Adelaide over in Adelaide. It's a tough enough assignment without him being distracted by all these things, in my opinion.
I just want to make the point, Rob, very quickly that both myself and Patrick did talk to Tim Watson today after that exchange and after what happened last night, and I think you know, we're both. I think, well, Patrick certainly said he was, and I too. I mean, we're both happy with what he said to us. You know, I think it'll blow over.
OK. Well, let's move on and let's talk about the Eagles. They're sitting 2-0 like the Bombers are, so they'd have a happy coach in Mick Malthouse. Mick was talking about his centre-half forward, Fraser Gehrig. Now, Fraser's kicked 6 goals, a very talented player, super quick player, but some interesting comments from Mick Malthouse on his key forwards.
I think it's a great credit to Fraser to work through a lot of unfortunate abuse that he gets. And he'll be a hero tonight when he walks away, but the same people were booing him last week. That's the tragedy of many respects when a bloke has to go through what he went through.
Did you counsel him at all through the week, or do you do that sort of thing?
We've spoken about this for a long time, about being able to drag himself away from what people say over the fence.
What do you tell a person in that situation?
Well, I think that you have to drift your focus to what's happening around you. You can't determine what they're going to say. As I said to him, if he's worried about what people say over the fence, as Brett Heady has done from time to time and so forth, and some other players, don't ever coach.
Don't worry about what they say from the other side of the fence. Well, Kevin Sheedy, one of the things I admire about Kevin, and Kevin, I do admire you in this sense that I believe that you handle criticism better than anybody as a coach. Now, you're going to get it. You've had a lot of success. You still get criticised, but I reckon you've got a pretty thick skin. I don't think anyone could kill you with an axe, and I say that as a compliment. Yeah. How do you deal with criticism that comes your way? Because for 20 years you've copped plenty, but you handle it better than any.
Probably having the career that I had as a player was a good apprenticeship, because I mean, I gave out a fair bit and I copped it over the fence from that point of view. But look, I think there's certain areas where you look at your coaching, and sometimes the critics are right, let's be honest. I mean, if you're not having a very good period as a coach for whatever reason, your moves haven't been great, or you've got, probably your team might be absolutely spot on at the time, and you lose games where you just probably were ahead that you shouldn't have lost it and that sort of thing. So there are going to be times when you have to sit down and analyse your own self, because, I mean, you're not going to coach 19 years and have everything right. Yep. There's no doubt about that. And I think that probably having a good group of people around me over the years has been essential, and people like, you can bounce your thinking off, and they can actually redirect you and get you back online sometimes when you are down the wrong highway. I think I've been fortunate that at Essendon I've had a number of those people that I've always trusted their view, haven't always necessarily agreed with it, and they haven't agreed with myself either. So to be able to have that sort of group of people near you, and their supporters, coaching people, committee, the whole lot, even your players, I think that's been beneficial. And so in the actual criticism, well, I mean, they're words, and there's a bit of feeling sometimes behind words, but really does the person know, or know the problem at the time? So not everybody knows the problems. I mean, and we've been trying to win for the last couple of years without, 3 or 4 fantastic players in Long and Hurd and Alessio and Mercury sort of thing. I mean, it's very difficult when 4 are out. North Melbourne lose 4 the other night, and they're not used to it, you see. Yeah. They're not used to it. But we've had that at our club. Our supporters have been just sitting there and praying, that we might be able to get those back. But the most important thing is put your next best kid in, and he'll drop a mark and kick a point when he should kick the goal, or he won't man up because he's not experienced enough when to cut the corner and man up, and all of a sudden you'll lose a couple of games.
Kevin, we're going to go to Mick Malthouse press conference again. I'm really glad you're here, because I'm
glad you're not bringing up some of mine.
You'll be able to...
We haven't got enough time.
I think you'll be able to interpret for us, because you blokes are the old Richmond school, and you talk about Churchill and wars and all that sort of thing.
I heard about you. I read your column the other week about passion and passion.
So tell us what Mick's on about here.
Oh, this is a big one.
There's been a lot written about the Eagles, and I think that we've had... what I say, I'll use a quote, right? I'll use a quote. Churchill, after the Battle of El Alamein, let's have a look what took place. I think it was when Rommel was pushed back. He said, "This is not the end. It is not the beginning of the end, but perhaps it is the end of the beginning." And if one has a look at and that end of quote, if one has a look at our side, we've been probably, I think that this could be the beginning of a new era for the boys, because we've got so many young fellas out there who are good footballers.
Kevin, all I understood was
exactly, spot on.
Now,
I want to know, did he push Rommel back to a back pocket?
Yeah. What happened? Where did Rommel go to?
No. What he's
and
really...
who's El Alamein?
No, what he's really saying, I would say that that first period of the group of players that he had, and I'm talking about players that have been there for quite some time. Now he's looking at this new group, and he believes it's the new beginning. And I'm talking about Jones, I'm talking about these sort of kids, Andrew Embley, Scott Cummings at full forward, might kick 80, as many assume it. He's probably talking about Braun. So he's saying that probably, I would say, look, it's not the end, it's the beginning. And I would say that he's looking as a positive vein of where there. I would say he's believing that he'll be in the top 4 by the end of the year. That's what I read from
top
that.
4 by the end of the year.
That's
What do you
what
think,
I
Rowan?
I think they should never have moved Rommel, and they should never have let go Goebbels in that draft swap. It was just a disaster.
Well, it hasn't worked out for them, no doubt about that.
You'll never coach, Craig.
It's becoming confusing.
We have.
Exactly.
We're going to go into a break, and the Eagles farewelled a couple of their heroes, Chris Waterman and John Worsfold, and let's have a look at how they responded to those players.
What he means.
Exactly.
And then we'll come back and we'll talk about the Mighty Cats.
We gotta be sure about this.
A message from deep space.
Whatever it is, it ain't local.
We are not alone.
That position is confirmed. Who are we gonna call now?
Everybody.
Want all these people out of here.
Jodie Foster.
It is our belief that the message contains instructions for building something, some kind of machine.
Matthew McConaughey.
They're gonna build it.
Who gets to go?
It's complicated, Ellie.
James Woods.
I'm going to recommend to the president that we militarize this project immediately.
And by doing this, you're willing to give your life. You're willing to die for it.
I think it's worth a human life.
A journey to the heart of the universe. A passionate quest to make first contact. Coming soon to the Movie Network.
Greek Easter, one of the most important events in the Greek calendar. Rich in colour, bathed in tradition, culture and religion. And now, for the first time on Australian television, you can experience every sacred moment of the Greek Easter service, live, just as it happens. Don't miss the Greek Easter service, live with Archbishop Stylianos from the Archdiocese, 11:30 p.m. this Saturday, only on GATV.
Killer whales can make quite an impression.
The gentle giants of the seas.
Like a graceful phantom underwater.
More intelligent than we thought.
Kayak is fascinated by pictures of killer whales.
More caring than we dreamed.
Even the biggest and most powerful bulls stick close to their mothers.
More awesome than we imagined.
The largest species of dolphin, killer whales seem to thrive on plenty of attention.
Beautiful killers on World of Discovery. Saturday, 6:30 on Odyssey.
We are Geelong, the greatest team of all.
A year ago, those words weren't ringing true.
We are Geelong, we're always on the ball.
A year ago, the Cats were struggling to kick a goal.
We play the game as it should be played.
Well, suddenly, the words are ringing true. A forest of tall timber has replaced what was not so long ago an area of devastation. Suddenly, these Cats have claws. What were those words again?
We are Geelong, the greatest team of all. We are Geelong.
Welcome back. Well, the Cats, 2 wins, 22 goals, 24 goals. Stan, you've seen both games. Why are they kicking these goals?
Well, Rob, in my opinion, they've now got, if you see on the video here, they've just got 4 very capable big men. We've got Mensch, who's continued on from his great form from last year. You'll see here that we've got Stoneham, and Stoneham now, it doesn't have to be the P. He backs up and he supports. The pressure that's got in that, those big men, look, they're also agile at ground level. They've got Mooney who's in there, and Barnes also changing with King. And what that means, I'll tell you what it means, you get the ball anywhere from about the half-back line and you've got confidence, just get it and kick it in long and hard down there, and you've got somebody, if they don't mark it, they're going to present, the ball will spill to the ground. It means that Burns and players like that are going to be able to just run and hit the packs get in front for a crumbing thing, it just brought a whole new dimension to the confidence of how they play the game.
But it is unusual to have that many big men in a side, isn't it? Up forward.
But they're pretty agile, aren't they? We see Mooney who kicked that goal. Now, there was an instance on Saturday at Optus Oval where he contested the long ball in from Riccardi. He contested, it came to ground, he followed up, got it, turned and twisted, on the left foot, bang, kicked a goal. Well, he becomes two players in one.
And, Rob, two of those big men, we've got to talk about the centre bounce, the number of centre bounces, but with Barnes and King, they were able to change him in a forward pocket, because they can both go up and kick goals. They don't have to worry about changing them off the bench, interchange, losing the flow for the game. Kev, you understand? They've got some good players up there.
Mooney's been a terrific...
Why would Sydney have let him go, do you think?
Look, I'm not quite sure. Look, a number of people we hear in the footy grapevine that he had been injured a lot, but, like, big men that mobile and that size, I mean, they just are so hard to get. And look, you look at the drafting, I mean, we've been, looking at it and working through young kids, but the guy is just such a big, strong, agile sort of player, and I mean, and with their injuries at the moment, that's really going to hurt Sydney, but with Geelong, I mean, they've only got to pump that ball down and take... if everyone takes 4 marks, that's 4 fours or 16 marks shooting for goal, and they're contested marks too.
And it helps too if you're up against an undersized backline, and the Bulldogs did have Croft and Crediuk out as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. No doubt about that. Well, we'll talk to Terry Wallace, and he was certainly concerned about the height in that Geelong forward line.
Geelong tools kicked 11 for the game, and our tools kicked 1. So, I mean, even the rucks, pushing forward as mobile ruck options, that they were able to get goals out of their tools where we weren't able to get goals out of ours. I mean, you have a Mooney who has 9 kicks for the game and kicks 4 goals. You have a Grant who has 10 kicks for the game and kicks 1.
Well, Stan and I were both at that game, and Stan, I thought that Chris Grant, 2 games into the season, it looks as if his confidence in his goal kicking has gone already.
Yeah, it's just amazing, and I think we'll see some video of it. There are times where he really just didn't want to kick to goal. He was all the time just looking to give it off, and when he had to kick, there was no confidence at all in what he was doing. Not kicking through the ball. I think it's like getting the yips in putting, I think, at the moment with Chris.
And I also think that they rely so much on him. You mentioned earlier about Geelong's got the 4 tall forwards, and if it's not working for one, well, maybe another can bob up. But if it's not working for Chris Grant, well, who else is there to help him? Because James Cook isn't helping him. Ellis was lively across half forward, but they probably need him in defence. But you'll see there, now that's a sign of a player, I think, who just doesn't want to have a shot on goal.
Yeah.
Now, there was a terrific set play set up by the Cats in the last quarter. They kicked 8 goals, and we'll see at this centre bounce, there's the ball by Hocking, out to Kilpatrick. He's able to run 12, 13, 14 metres and kick a goal without anyone coming at him. Reason why all of the Geelong forwards were down near the goal square when that centre bounce took place. So they just opened up space through centre half forward, and it was good coaching by Gary Ayres, and it was something that they did for most of the game. Now, I know
you can do that too. It's not a long ground, is it?
It's the best ground to do it on. If you can get a centre break player and let him kick from the end of the centre square, well, he'll kick a goal.
Is it shorter than Sydney?
About the same.
Now, on the other hand, of course, when you look at the Western Bulldogs, I mean, they were relying on the crummers, and this young boy, Nathan Brown, was absolutely superb for them. But this is what they had to do all day long. I mean, I just don't know, Kev. I mean, I know I can't get you to talk on other blokes, but
can I give the man in the out of you first? That is fantastic. I want to see more of that. What's wrong with that?
Well, that's showtime. That's his 7th goal. Now, the kid's had a red-hot day. He's kicked 1 in the first, 3 in the second. He kicked 3 in the third, so he's got 7 by 3/4 time. So you're going along very nicely.
I wouldn't know him kick 7 in a year.
But when he came through, and he crumbed that ball to perfection, and, of course, he held it over his head. You say the man in the crowd loved it. What would you say to him, Stan, as a coach?
I got to say, son, if it was the last game in your career, fantastic. But if you've got to play again, you're just giving somebody an awful lot of ammo.
Yeah, but we're coaches, so you've got a problem.
Yeah, we've got to draw a line for entertainment.
Guys.
And look, the point also probably ought to be made, according to one person I spoke to, that Nathan Brown went up to shake hands with Brad Scholl at the start of the game, and Scholl responded to the offering of the hand by giving him a nice old bump. So I guess he was sort of getting a bit of his own back in some way. I reckon that's fair enough.
Well, the Tigers, they got their first win on the board, probably because they wore the black shorts. Wear the black shorts and you win. Wear the white and you lose. Matthew Richardson played a pretty good game. They used him as a floating forward. They didn't have him stuck in the goal square. He was allowed the freedom to move around. He responded pretty well by kicking 4 goals.
An amazing goal, isn't it? Just amazing, this.
I think it'll bring a rule out on this.
I wonder if the boys upstairs can show us that again, Stan, because that was pretty quick, and I'm sure we'll be able to see it again.
In slow-mo?
I don't know if we can get slow-mo, but there's Richo. He's gone to the ground. He's had a kick. And it's a goal.
It's a goal.
Well, ask this. If a guy's got his hands on the ball and you kick it off the ground, that's in danger. Why isn't that?
Because maybe the umpire may not have seen it.
What did the man, Rowan, what did the man in the outer feel?
Well, I was in the outer and up the sable, so I wasn't feeling anything.
I know what Rodney E would have felt.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have a look at a few of the Richmond dodgy goals, I've been told. I don't know what's dodgy about them, but there's Paul Broderick on that left foot. He's gone to the top of the goal square. Richo, I know it's Holland's gone up for the ball. Did he mark it?
No.
No.
Well, there's one dodgy one. Here we go again. Ball comes to ground, and what is it? Another free kick.
Soft as butter. No free.
Okay, well,
back, wasn't it?
Rowan, you're making more enemies. It looks like it might be a Sydney free kick there with an elbow in the back of the neck. And, well, Schwatter.
Perfectly legitimate Shepherd.
Shepherd from behind, and David Burke will take the free kick. Let's have a look.
Oh, no, that's a roughie.
Nothing wrong with that.
It's a shocker.
And Berkey goes back on the short pass, and he's able to hit Blurton there, and I guess it was a goal. So
Kev wants to say a few things, but we need to have a whip around for him first.
Were they dodgy, Rowan?
Yeah, they were dodgy. And I was just thinking, actually, interstate sides you think probably fare not so well away from home, but according to the umpiring statistics last year, I think a lot of the interstate sides were getting more free kicks away than at home. So,
Rowan, we're going to listen to Rodney Eade. It's a quick comment. It goes for 4 seconds, so make sure you don't miss it.
It's piercing.
I can't comment on the Martians, and I'm certainly not going to comment on them today.
How are the Martians?
Well, the perfect man.
You've done it again.
You've saved him 5,000.
Your single longest lasting contribution to football vernacular, the Martians.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, let's face it, there's a hell of a lot of different types of Martians. You've got to understand that. And sometimes, you know, the people with not earthly feelings in this world, you know. You've been a Martian at times too.
Have I? Oh, okay.
OK, well, there's a lot coming up on C7 this week. Sit back and have a look. You'll enjoy it.
If it's footy you want, it's footy you'll get right here on C7. This Wednesday, don't miss great games of the decade. Join Glenn Archer and Pete Donegan when we go back to round 22 last year for the battle between the Western Bulldogs and the Kangaroos.
Turn Cameron. Doesn't mind this Leon Cameron. Go for goal and get a quick answer. What a magnificent kick by Leon Cameron.
On Thursday, the Footy Focus boys return. Pete, Collo, Dakes, Halves and Crackers with a